Okay, it's 6:30. At this time, I'd like to call the Administrative Services Committee meeting for November 19th, 2016 to order. Please call the roll.
Councilor Corradino.
Here.
Councilor DeMasi.
Excused.
Councilor Hill.
Here.
Councilor Tesserero.
Here.
Councilor Wilmot.
Here. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the November 4th, 2018 committee meeting. Councilor Tesorerio, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Is there any old business to discuss on this committee? Seeing none, moving right along to item number 1 for tonight. Nancy Stereo, Personnel Director, and as Chairman of the Procedures Review Committee, request for the review and authorization for Mayor Barlow to sign the new travel policy. Nancy, would you like to walk up to the podium?
Good evening. I'm just going to say the members of the committee that the mayor formed was myself. He asked the police chief, the fire chief, and the city chamberlain, along with Kevin Hill and Rob Cordino. And we have met several times, and we finally feel we're at the point where we're ready to bring this for council review and approval. Some of the highlights of the process that came about from the meetings and what's included in the final policy is the approval process is going to change in that only requests that require travel using city grant money, or if it exceeds the budget line item in a particular year's budget, then it would come back to the Common Council for approval. Otherwise, the department head would have that approval. If department heads are traveling, there's a requirement for them to notify the mayor and the chairman of the Administrative Services Committee. We also, I think, more clearly defined travel during the normal course of business, where right now it gets a little confusing as to if somebody's got to take a fire truck to Syracuse because they got to have some work done on it, whether that's out of the city travel or if it's normal course of the business. So we've kind of clarified that as well in this new procedure. One of the other things that we're doing is we're going to go to begin using the GSA, which is the General Service Administration, federal guidelines for per diems for meals and lodging. There's a website. You go on the website, you type in where you're going, and it pops up a page full of per diems for all your meals and your lodging. We added department head and chamberlain approval for cash advances. Right now they can just walk in with a cash advance. Nobody has to approve that. And we're going to be adding travel cards for the biggest users, freeing up the city's credit card for other purposes. So those are the major highlights. There are other things that have changed in the policy too, but at this time, if somebody has any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them. Ron?
This is for budgeted travel, Nancy?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right.
Once the council's approved the budget for the year,
okay,
no one has to come back other than if they're going to exceed their budget
Sure.
line or if they're using city grant funds. There was some questions about the grant funds and how much could be charged to those as far as travel was concerned. So we felt that the council should still control that portion of it.
thank you.
Any other questions for Nancy? Seeing none. Thank you, Nancy. Can I have a motion? Councilor Hill, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
And I'm sure Nancy will do it. Thank you, Nancy.
I actually have it done. I just was waiting.
Item number 2, Nancy Stereo, Personnel Director, and as Chairman of the Procedures Review Committee, requests for the review and authorization for Mayor Barlow to sign the new credit card policy. One more time.
One more time. In the policy that was put in with the council, I noticed when I was going over it to pull out some highlights that there's a change in the first paragraph where we're going to delete travel has to be approved by the Common Council, because we've already determined with the travel policy that we no longer need to do that. The other thing that we're doing on this is most of the responsibilities will be shifted from the purchasing office to the city chamberlain's office, and the biggies in this particular case are issuing the credit card. The city credit card will be issued and held by the city chamberlain in the amount of $10,000, and then travel cards will be issued to the city chamberlain, the fire chief, the personnel director, and the police chief in the amount of $5,000 each. And then these individuals will be responsible for reconciling monthly statements and preparing the vouchers for payments. We looked at, with input from the city chamberlain, who were the biggest users of travel, and those 4 departments that I mentioned are it. So we're hoping by giving them the $5,000 travel card will free up some of the money that is on the city travel card, and we won't be running into some of the issues we've had in the past.
Thank you.
Any questions for Nancy on this particular item? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Councilor Tesorerio and Hill.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Resolution, Nancy will do that one.
I will.
Item number 3, Robert Corradino, Council President, requests discussion on filling a vacancy that currently exists on the City of Oswego Board of Assessment Review. William G. Mercer would like to be reappointed to the board. I did talk with Susan Deary this evening on this. He's been on the board, I believe, 3 consecutive terms, Mr. Mercer. He also was a city councilor, and she supports reappointing him. He certainly knows his stuff after all these years. As I said, Susan couldn't be here, so do you have any questions in regards to this appointment? Anybody? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Councilor Tesorerio, Councilor Hill.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
We have an add-on, I believe, item number 4, I'm calling it. Tom Kells, DPW Commissioner, requests the City Chamberlain be authorized to submit a 25% down payment, which is $121,332.25 for the DPW fuel tanks approved by the Common Council at the last council meeting in order to receive a 5% discount, which is $9,524.40 on the overall purchase price. It's pretty cut and dry as far as what they're asking for here. Commissioner, would you like to add anything to that?
You just said pretty much it all.
Councilor Tesorerio.
Any start date, Commissioner? Do we know? Spring?
And
Okay, so this would be the final, or okay, thank
I
you.
would recommend the contract we do.
Okay.
Multiple start date and then end date.
Okay, thank you very much.
I just have a question for City Chamberlain. The 25%, the $121,332, do we have that kind of money laying around?
It's part of the demo project that we're going to do.
All right, very good. Any other questions from the council on this? None from the gallery? Can I have a motion, please? Councilor Tesorerio, Councilor Hill.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot. And we need a resolution.
And we need a resolution, Mr. Callows? A resolution for this? Thank you. I believe that's the last item for this committee. Is there any other items that we need to discuss? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? Councilor Hill, Councilor Tesorerio.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
At this time, I'll call the Physical Services Committee meeting for November 19th, 2018 to order. Please call the roll.
Counselor Hill.
Here.
Counselor Wilmot.
Here.
Counselor DeMassey. Absent. Counselor Gozick.
Here.
Could I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 5th, 2018 committee meeting? Counselor Wilmot, Counselor Gozick.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot. Yes. Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business under communication. Item number 1, the Engineering Department received a request for use of public space from Michelle McVeigh, tenant of a commercial building located at 197 to 203 West First Street in the 3rd Ward, to place one 2-foot by 3-foot A-frame sign between the curb and property line fronting West First Street. This is for her bakery business that is located in Canal Commons. I don't see any issue with this. Are there any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion, please? Councilor Wilmot, Councilor Gozick.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Item number 2, Justin Rudgick, Community Development Director, received a request from the Ancient Order of Hibernians to organize the St. Patrick's Day Parade for Saturday, March 9, 2018. The event is scheduled for 1 p.m. beginning on East First Street by Alex's and crossing the bridge onto West 2nd Street, ending at the parking lot at Wrights Landing Marina on Lake Street. They are requesting road closures and traffic control assistance from OPD and DPW. Is anyone here to speak to this event? This is a recurring event. The parade has been well received for the past 2 years. I would certainly support it again. Are there any questions? Okay. Does anyone have any concerns? A waiver of the open container ordinance? Okay. Could I have a motion, please? Councilor Gozick, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
If you need a resolution.
That would come from Community Development. Item number 3, Kevin Caracoli, City Attorney, requests favorable consideration from the Common Council to authorize the City of Oswego to close a portion of Burkle Street that remains unopened. The requested road closure is necessitated by a proposal from National Grid to purchase a portion of the closed road to accommodate upgrades to existing gas transmission lines nearby. Councilor?
Good evening. This is a request that is necessitated by some upgrades to gas transmission property that is owned by National Grid. It's on portion of Burkle Street that is not opened at this point in time, and frankly, you look at the map, it'd be very difficult to open that road at that point because a portion of National Grid's transmission facilities cuts through the street. We've met with representatives of National Grid. They're here this evening, in fact. We being Mr. Johnson, myself, representatives of the Code Office, to see if we couldn't come to some resolution on how best to accommodate National Grid, but also protect the future interests of the City of Oswego, potential development of any other portion of that area down in that portion of the city. There really is no practical effect for that portion of Burkle Street. That is the intersection of I think it's Walnut and Burkle that goes west, and at the very edge of that, the map I've showed you is, I believe, the parking lot for the county building, Bunner Street facility. So it really is kind of a no man's land, if you will. It has no practical use. And if you look at how Burkle Street was laid out and used, portions of Riley School are through Burkle, and the ball fields and all the rest of you carry on. So this is just, this request is for the closure of this portion of Burkle Street only. And then under the code, if a road closure is to occur, it has to occur in 2 concurrent years of the Common Council. And oftentimes you can do that with the last meeting of the year and the first meeting of a new year, and that gets you the 2 years. That's been the historic interpretation of that law. And that's why the request is coming at this point in time. I believe that National Grid is planning upgrades. They're not immediate, as in happening, next month or even in January, but next year, and that's a further need for this request. So And I don't want to confuse the two, but they are somewhat related. There is a separate purchase and sale agreement for a portion of the road that would otherwise, well, it's all owned by the city of Oswego and would be conveyed over to National Grid. So that's kind of step two, if you will. We have to have a road closure before we can convey any portion of that property. But the way that the preliminary deal is worked out, and it will come to you for approval, the city would be retaining a portion of that road for its own use, egress, ingress. National Grid has to retain other portions for security purposes. They're putting a fence around it to protect the facilities because it's out there now and it's exposed and needs to be protected. So that's the request tonight is just for the road closure. Again, I talked with Mr. Johnson. He supports this, and he supports it even while we continue to negotiate with National Grid, because at the end of the day, we support the road closure, and the terms of the purchase and sale agreement are very close to being worked out if they're not already worked out, but that just allows us the additional time carrying into next year to negotiate those terms and then bring that to the board. Questions?
Councilor Tesseri.
Yes, Counselor. I know we have a water line that runs through that property that we have access to.
Correct.
I'm not quite sure how much room we need, but I'm sure Mr. Johnson's probably negotiated to be able to, if there ever was a break, to repair. I mean, we're not going to have an issue, are we, with this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and that's part of the shaded area on this map. It's difficult to, it doesn't show up real well on the copy that I gave you, but the shaded area that the city would retain contains that water line. Now, it doesn't go in a real straight line. It kind of zigzags, but there is enough room, and that's part of the negotiations with Grid, to allow us the ability to access that if there were ever a need to make those repairs. Fortunately, the area, according to Mr. Johnson, that would be most likely to break at a juncture point is more on the city side than on the National Grid side anyway, so we feel comfortable about that. But yes, that there is room to maneuver there.
I have one more question, if you don't mind. And the gentleman, I take it from National Grid?
All the way in the back there, yes?
Yeah.
Yep.
What's the impact as far as the noise decibel level going to be increased with what they're doing?
No, no change at all.
No change at all? Okay, because...
station limits, tying in the existing inlet.
Okay, because that's the questions I get, is
Yeah,
because they're...
This is primarily a safety issue. It's the fencing.
Okay.
To preserve what they have there already.
All right. All right. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions from the public? Okay. Could I have a motion, please? Councilor Gozick, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Do we need a resolution?
That would come from Mr. Kirker. Is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn. Councilor Gozick and Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Really don't have a formal way of closing out.
No. It's the way they've been doing it for decades.